Okay, so let's start. Okay, next. Okay, so every time you open an exercise, a new screen will pop up on the left where you have to code, right? You already know this from LearnPack. And you have to read the instructions. And in this case, the instructions are pretty simple. Just use the console log instruction and print hello world to the console, right? So, you do it. I mean, I know how to do it. So you use the console log instruction and to print hello world into the terminal, through the console. So console log hello world. Semicolon at the end. Now, in these particular exercises, we need to give it some room to the terminal below. Because remember, when we console log, everything that we console log or print is in the terminal. So it will show up there in the terminal, right? When you run the build program, the build button, the output will show up right there in the terminal. You're probably seeing it right now. At the bottom of the terminal, it says hello world. So every time you run it, that's what the console log is printing hello world in the terminal. Got it? Questions about console log? So the point of console log is also help you print some variables that are in memory when you are not sure what is going on with that variable, right? So you can do console log this variable and it will print it, right? Cool. Next. Well, you can hit the test button first, so we're sure that your code is correct. There you go. Next.
Does the code spaces want the double quotes?
No, it should be single quotes as well. If you put single quotes, it should be work. It should work. Yeah, it works with single quotes. And it should work with backticks. Remember the backticks? Same. Okay, let's go to the next. So printing variables to the console. In this exercise, we need to declare a variable named color, assign the value red. Notice that I'm saying assign. That's the word to describe when we are storing that value in the variable, assigning, and print its value to the console, right? We need to write the code below this line. Don't modify the ones on top. So how do we create a new variable called color? What is the instruction? What is the instructions to create a variable? Let color, so the name of the variable equals red. Semicolon. Yes?
Why wouldn't you use constant?
Good question. In this particular exercise, it doesn't tell you that use let or const. I assume that they want you to use let, but you're right. It's that if your variable doesn't change throughout your application, you should definitely use const, right? And I will probably go a little bit further, that when you are writing your code, try to write everything with const. Try to avoid let at all costs, right? Let me explain why. if you cannot modify a variable, that means that when you declare a variable const, that means that you cannot modify it. So you accidentally don't modify it, right? So if you try to accidentally modify it, that will cause an error. And this is good because when you create variables as const, all the programs or all the code in that JavaScript cannot interfere and modify it intentionally, right, to something else. Let's say you have a variable with you're making a transfer and you're storing the variable, the account that you want to transfer, the cell that you're sending, and you store it in a let variable. If you have a JavaScript program injected somewhere there, and it's very easy because you see all these Chrome extensions. Those Chrome extensions are dangerous in the sense that they can put JavaScript code in your code, right? So if you put some let variable and you have the cell that you're transferring your money, they will say, oh, there is a variable here called, like, I can modify. And then instead of you sending the value, the money to the right account, they will send it to their account, right? So, but if you make it a const, that's not possible because they cannot modify the variable. Make sense? So it's more secure using const than using let. That's the whole purpose of let and const. But yeah, if the variable doesn't change, like follow this rule. If the variable doesn't change, use a const. And the extension of that rule is always try to use const, if possible, right? Now here, I'm not sure that the test will validate that you're using let or const, so let's try to see what happens. Now, what's the second instruction? Print its value to the console. How do we do that? Console.log color. So remember, anything that we put inside those parentheses, right, is what is going to be printed in the console. It could be a value, it could be a string, it could be a variable. Anything that we put inside that, it will be printed to the console. Let's run it. We should see red in the terminal. Well, hello on red because we have a console log on the top, right? Now let's run the test. And it works. Now let's change it to const. And let's see if it will still work because it's exactly the same. But let's see the test work. And it's also working. Now, notice this. I cannot do this. Color equals blue. So I am trying to modify the variable with a different color and then print it again to the console. You see the error on the bottom? It says, in this line, notice that the error is very descriptive. It will tell you exactly what the error is, right? And it will tell you assignment to a constant variable. You cannot assign to a constant variable. Now, if I put let here, this will not fail because you can reassign a let variable. But constants variable cannot be reassigned. As soon as I try to run it, it will fail. But notice that it will fail. Actually, interesting that it didn't put red even. Like red doesn't come out ever, right? No. Okay, questions? Questions? No? Should we go to the next? We good?
So, yeah, can you tell us an example, the real life using the let? What kind of?
I avoided, I never use let. Usually, if I tell you I never use let without any context, you will think, well, you may be making some type of um, trick, or to doing something extra to avoid using let. I am not, because the thing is that most applications, when you try to create an algorithm that does something, you're always the output. You're always putting in a new variable, and a new variable, and a new variable, and a new variable, and those variables are always consts.
So you don't have need to.
You don't have to rewrite any variable, right? Because actually rewriting all variables is more dangerous, and also I would say sometimes it takes more memory. Let me explain why. Not memory. It's like your program actually uses more memory when you use const, because every time you create a new variable, you have to store it somewhere else, right? But the thing is that as soon as that variable stops being used, there is something in the JavaScript runtime. The runtime is the code that runs your code, that immediately would remove that from the memory, right? And it knows that it's no longer used because it's a const, so nobody, only that variable is using that, right? So as soon as you remove it, it disappears. So that's why sometimes it's faster use const as well. So, but the thing is, your program, you will see it, like as soon as you start writing code, you will see, I don't never need to use let, because honestly, you never need to use let. There is very few cases where you actually modify a variable that is a const, that needs to be a let, right? The other thing, and this is something that a lot of people complain about the language, is that arrays and objects, even if you make them consts, you can still modify them, right? You cannot reassign them. But if you have an array that is const, you can still push elements to that array, so make it bigger. Or if you have an object, even if it's const, you can change properties of that object. So it's const in quotes, because it's not actually a constant. The variable, the memory, the place in memory is constant, but the content can be changed, right? It's not the same for a string, it's not the same for a number, but in arrays and objects, consts can be modified, right? So yeah, you don't need, like, if you use only that, then you don't need to use let. Like, honestly, it's very rare that you need to use a let. Very rare. Cool, so multiply two values. Let's do this. So, of course, multiplication is something that we do all the time in a programming language. And the instructions are, store the product of these two numbers in a variable called variables are cool. Print the result to the console. That's pretty much it. Now, this exercise, the only thing that will give us is the multiplication, right? It's a new thing that we are learning now, that we can do multiplication. And pretty much we can do any expression, any mathematical expression that you think about, you can write it in JavaScript the same way you are thinking that you can write it. So you need to create a variable called variables are cool. And notice that variables are cool is in what format? Camel case, right? Variables are cool. So the multiplication of these two numbers. Now, in variables are cool, what is stored is the result of that operation. We are not storing the multiplication. We're storing the result of the multiplication. So that expression, this is what we call an expression. That expression is evaluated, so calculated, is evaluated, and then the result is stored in the variable. Correct? And of course, the console log, you already know. Oops. So that's 1,000,000 something something. So that's what the value of variables are cool is. 17 million, right? 17 million. So what we store is the result of that calculation, not the calculation. The calculation is just the expression that we use. Now that we are here, let's put some, what else can we do with these mathematical expressions? Of course, we have all the symbols that you know already, plus sign, subtraction. Division is like this, right? Division. There is this particular symbol. It's not percentage, it's modulus. You know, remember modulus? You know what modulus is? It's the remainder of the integer division. So when you are dividing by 2, right? Let's say you're dividing 3 by 2. The remainder is 1. Is the remainder of the integer division. So when you are dividing 3 by 2, you have that is 1, right? And then the remainder is 1. That's the remainder is the modulus. So modulus, you have also, well, you can use parentheses, that's for sure. Right? Of course, parentheses will give you priority in the operations. And you will probably see this around a lot. Right? So in math, think about math now, right? Go back to when you were in, probably not in college, even middle, what's the first one? Preschool? Primary. Is primary called primary? Elementary, yes, thank you. So go back to elementary, when you were learning, well, maybe not elementary, but you get the point. So what is the result here?
7,000.
So the multiplication is first, right? So these two will be multiplied, and then these two have the same order, it's the same priority, so it will do the subtract. You know the idea. So let's do it. That will be the value. So yeah, the math priority of this symbol, these operators, will still be there, right? So multiplication, division first, addition is subtraction then. Everything that has parentheses is first, of course. Well, these are the math symbols. I think we have another one. It's the power. Actually, no, that's another symbol, sorry. This is not the power. Actually, power is using the math. Pow. Yeah. So yeah, there are functions, mathematical functions that we can use. You can Google them, some of them, right? But yeah, I was talking about operators, so let's go back to what we have. Right? Questions? Sorry? All good? Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, so we need to input some data from the user. Now, in this exercise, we need to allow the user to enter some information, and then based on that information, make some calculation. Okay? Now, one thing is important is for that, for the input, so when we want to enter some information, we're going to use this function, the prompt function. So this is one of the first functions, actually the second function that we are going to use. The first function that we used, which one was it?
Console log.
Console log is a function as well, yes? So now the second function that we're going to use is this prompt function. So what we're going to do is to, okay. So you see that we have a prompt that is asking the user for their age, right? So this first instruction is creating a variable named age, and it's assigning to that variable, the value of whatever the user inputs, right? So if you execute this code right now, you see that you will see something like this. What's your age? So whatever the user user put there, and hits accept, that's what the value has now. Okay? If I console log that variable the way it is, exactly the way it is right now, notice in the terminal that it will print that in the terminal, right? 46. Now, what I want here is to add 10 years to the value of age, correct? What's the problem? Is that prompt is a function that you can write anything, right? So it's not the same and seeing the difference is really important. One is what? A text, a string. Start calling it string, not text. String. It's a string. And the other one is what? A number, an integer. Well, in JavaScript, there's just numbers. There's no integer, decimal, no, it's just number. So string, number. So a string and a number. If you try to add those two, like if I try to add 46 plus 10, right? This will probably be bad. Because 46 is a string and 10 is a number. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Of course, if I add 46 and 10, like the number, this will be 56, right? That's pretty much clear. But this is the problem that I'm seeing here, is that we have a string, and we have a number, and we have to add those two, right? So if I need to add, I need to convert this string to a number first, and then add the 10 number. Make sense? And it's because prompt, this function prompt, just returns a text, right? So if I do age plus 10, and I run this, actually it put one and then the other. So 46 and then 10, right? It's not a number. It cannot be added. So we need to convert a string to a number. And in this point is when I tell you, Google it.
Google it?
Yeah, Google it. Because Googling JavaScript is really important skill that you need to learn. So you have to Google this. How can we convert a string to an integer in JavaScript? It's the best time to use ChatGPT, honestly. Well, it's not the best. It's super easy for ChatGPT. It's not nothing. So how can we convert a string to a number in JavaScript? You got the answer? What's your name, sorry? Rene. Rene, you got the answer? What's the answer?
I think that's a function called number.
There is a function called number. Actually, yeah. It's not a function. It's the constructor of the number.
Yeah.
This is one of the ways to do it. Not the...
Yeah, I'm that one, but I don't understand what it says.
You found it? What it says?
An example. Well, it says convert a string to a number. You can use the parse float parentheses or number parentheses function for this.
Okay, so what he's saying is put number, parentheses, around the string, right? And then add it. Okay, let's try with that. So 46, 56, that worked.
Other way around, I've seen a number to string. I've never seen a string to number.
There's the
That works.
parse.
That's another way. Parse int, parentheses age. And it also works, right? Now, what happens if I try to put something that is not a number here? Like 46 46.
You're drawing.
I mean, just messing with this now. This is a real value, by the way, but I want you to see it. Not a number, exactly. So when you try to convert something that is not a number to a number, it will give you a special value that is not a number, N-A-N. Nah. Nah. Yeah, so not a number, right? So and then that not a number will trickle for everything, right? So if you try to add something to not a number, it will still be not a number, right? So when I added 10, that's still not a number. Make sense? So again, there's two ways here. Number, you're basically converting that to a number. Actually, with number, we'll do the same. 46. Yeah, not a number. Now, the parsing has a nice trick, and it's that you can specify the what is it? It's the digits, right?
Radix.
The radix, yeah, the radix. Yeah, that's the correct way to say it. So radix is the base, right? So if I enter a number in base 10, like a decimal number, like 46 is base 10, then it will format it as base 10. But what if I want to format a number is in base 16, like an hexadecimal number, right? So I can do something like this. My number will be 46. That will be 46. I have no idea, but it should be something like D. No, not D. 2, 7. Ooh, almost. It's only 2, 8. No, 2, 7, 2. 2F, probably. No, I got by 1. 2B. No, wait, I said 2A, right? So 29. No, wait. What number I put before? I did 2F. Then it's 2A, 2E. That's an hexadecimal number, by the way. Sorry to get you a little bit confused. But I am formatting that input as an hexadecimal number. That's what parse int it has that feature, is that I can convert a number that's not decimal, but hexadecimal, and 2e happens to be 46 in hexadecimal, right? So when I add 10, it's 56, it's my age. So 2e is my age in hexadecimal. I'm 46, right? That's what I'm saying. Is parse int is another way, like number, but in this case, parse int has a way to specify the radix. So what is the notation? By the way, if you put 2, this is a binary number. So you can only use zeros and ones. So in binary, my age should be something like, maybe like this. 46, it should be like this. I'm short by a bunch of numbers. But yeah, you get the idea. It's just ones and zeros, right? So I can parse a binary number, ones and zeros. Make sense? I mean, it's something that we don't use every day, to be honest. Like, nobody uses the binary or hexadecimal. But we use it in colors in HTML, right? Remember the color when we do, this is hexadecimal. Cool. Questions? I would know.
What is that formula saying? Age, comma 2. What is that saying?
It's the parameters of the function. The function is parse int.
Yeah.
Everything inside the parentheses are the parameters of the function.
So what was the comma 2 saying?
The 2 is the second parameter, and the second parameter is the radix. It's the how many not digits. It's the radix. It's the root of that. The base of decimal is 10, hexadecimal is 16, binary is 2. 2 is because you only have 2 digits, 0, 1, 0, 1. In decimal is 0, 1 to the 9, so 10 digits, right? And in hexadecimal is 0 to the 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, and F, right? So that's hexadecimal. Make sense? Cool. Let's go to the next. And the next is, oh, I have to, wait, what happened here? It's working. Not sure what happened here. Let's do,
Same thing happened to me.
okay, let's do constant. Right? Constant is the one that comes after?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, constants. So for constants, oh, since 2015, interesting, constant. Okay, so in this exercise, the instructions are run the, wait, this is not the exercise, so give me a second. Oh, here. Okay, so this is the code. We have a code that says const version 0.1, and then there is a assignment to version equals 0.9, and then console log. So what happens here is run the exercise and fix the error that's shown in the console. So the error is this. So how do we fix the error here? What is the error?
Oh, well, I mean, you're saying it can't change version, the variable version can't change, and you're trying to change it.
Mm-hmm. That's an error. So how do we fix it?
Change the constant.
We change the const to a let. So now we can reassign it. There you go. That works.
That was easy.
Yeah. Got it. Let's go to the next. So it makes sense in this case. It's a const. We cannot reassign it. The program was trying to reassign a const. That would give us an error. So the way to fix it is to change it to a let.
So there's no default, right? You can't create a variable without having to put either let or constant. You can't just put version equals whatever. And there's like a default.
No.
Okay.
No. You need to specify a const as a let or a let. So good question actually. Let's try to see this. I think there is a good question there. So what happens if we try to do this, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we try to create a variable or assign a variable that doesn't exist. It was never created before, right? So what should happen? It should fail because that variable doesn't exist.
It's there.
No, it's just an error.
Oh, it's a glitch.
No, it's not a glitch. It's just that this is super wrong. This is just trying to compile that and make it work, but it should not work. Like that variable doesn't exist.
Okay.
Like, let me run this in a. By the way, you can run JavaScript directly in the terminal, right? So if I do here version equals 0.9. And it's reassigning it. Wow, incredible.
I think it automatically gets the type.
Wait. What if it's already a version variable? Let's do a.
What are the chances?
Let's do it in Spanish. It seems that version is too common. Like maybe there is a version somewhere. Oh no, still there. But that doesn't make sense. Like it should not be there.
That's what I was asking. Is there like a default?
Yeah. This is just a trick that browsers do because honestly that variable doesn't exist. So it should not even. I will have to check the standard to see what the standard says. So maybe what the standard says is that if the variable doesn't exist, it will create it using var. So I will assume that technically that variable was created with var, that is like ubiquitous. If that's true, then that means that in global, I should have, oh yeah, that's the issue. There is all a variable, and it's 9.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me explain. So the reason why we don't use var anymore is because var pollutes. So everything that you create as a var, it will be added to the global context of the of the page, right? So if I'm creating a variable name, change this later, and I will assign this value hello, right? If I create a variable like this, that means that that variable exists in the page, and you can access from any part of the page. So that means that that variable now is part of the global. It's part of the document. Well, not the document, the global context of the you see, change this letter. It creates a variable and puts us on the global scope of all the programs, right? So that's the part that I think is in the standard. It's like if you don't put cons or let, it will create a variable using var, and it will pollute the whole thing, right? And that's not good. That's why we're trying to avoid var. It's because now that variable cannot be removed. It's always there because anybody can access it, right? But when you create a variable, usually when we create variables, those variables live inside a function, and that means that as soon as the function ends, the variable disappears from memory. But not if you create it with var. It will still in memory. It will still be in memory, right? So that's the point of not using var. That we cannot use var, and I think that's the case for when you put a variable without. That's probably what the standard says, is that if you create a variable without let or const, you will create a variable with var, right? So avoid this as well. Don't do it, right? Yeah, that's the solution. Cool, let's do. Next, string concatenation. So, by the way, questions? Questions? No? Okay, here we have string concatenation, by the way, is something that we do in every program. And string concatenation, I mean, the word tells you that we are taking pieces of strings, right, of text, and put them together to create a bigger text or a bigger string, right? Now think about this. All websites, at the end of the day, are just string concatenations, right? Because you create HTML, the way you create HTML is putting pieces of string. So if you want to create an interface, you just have to put pieces of HTML here and there, and when you concatenate everything, that's your page. So if you want to think about what developers do in a day-to-day, we are only do a string concatenation. Every website is just a big string concatenation. We are taking pieces of strings and put them together, and that's your website, right? So string concatenation is actually pretty important. By the way, string concatenation could be used, for example, when you have, let's say you have an email. You've seen these emails that most companies send you that has, hello, John, this is your reminder that you have to pay your account for this amount on this day, right? They are not writing an email. There's not a person writing that email for every customer. There is a string that has some places, like placeholder inside, and those placeholders are changed, replaced with your name, with your information, right? And then everything is put together, and that's the email that sends you, right? That's also string concatenation. So string concatenation is actually something that we use a lot. So in this exercise, set the values of my var1 and my var2, so the code prints hello world to the console. So what's the values that we should give to my var1 and my var2? And notice how do we concatenate strings in line 6. What do we use to concatenate strings in JavaScript?
Plus.
The plus sign. So when you use the plus sign with two strings, What's the result here?
4510.
Exactly. 45, 10. So strings are concatenated together, right? They are not numbers, they are strings. Correct? So what are the values that we should give to these two variables so we can print hello world?
My bar one hello.
Now notice that for that little space to show up in the middle, we needed a space. So we are concatenating actually the value of variable 1 plus a space, an empty space, and then my bar 2, the value of my bar 2. And when those three things combine together, then it's hello space word. There you go, at the end. Got it? Now, the next one, I will leave it to you because this is really nice, and this is essentially what I was talking about when I was saying that this is all we do, right? So you need to modify in line 11 only, right? And you have a bunch of variables from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, each one with a tag or a closing tag, and you have to put them in order, right? So at the end, HTML document output is in the right order. So HTML, head, title, title, head, closing body, closing HTML tag. So what's the order? That's one, and then write the expression, so concatenate them in line 11. Well, one thing in line 11 that you probably noticed already is that line 11, the variable HTML document, is getting assigned what? String, right? So if I print this right now, what I'm gonna see in the screen is exactly that string, because this is a string. It's not an operation, it's a string, right? Because it's wrapped with the quotes, in this case single quotes. So the first thing that we need to do here is remove the single quotes. So now it's actually concatenating variables. I'm not sure that this is the right. Yeah, it's not the right order. So you need to put them in the right order. I need to see.
By right order, you mean alphabetical order, or?
No.
What do we-
You see the tags
In
have.
the constant, it's A, B, C, and then down in
C,
the
D,
modified
A,
variable,
F,
it's all
H.
not.
DB.
Yeah, they have to be in the order of a real HTML page.
No, ECG.
ECG. A.
So it should be what order again?
ECG.
ECG.
AF.
Oh, HF.
H.
Wait.
I got it. ECG, AF, H,
Oh,
D,
A.
B, yeah.
A. After the A, what's coming?
D, and then a B. B. Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, that's it.
Wait, you sure? Only 6?
No, it's
ECG, A,
A.
F.
F,
Oh, F.
H,
H.
D, B.
DB. Okay. Let's see. So HTML, open head, open title, closing head, body, closing body, HTML. Yes. So notice that we concatenated all the variables. Remember, we're taking the value, not the variable. and every variable has one of these values. So let's see the tests are good. There they are.
Wait, why'd you have to take away the quotations?
The quotations?
Well, how was it before?
Oh, if I put the quotations, what I'm printing? The string.
String B plus C plus.
Yeah, exactly. A literal string. That's why I removed the quotation, because, I mean, I think they are there to just confuse you.
Yeah.
It's different, right? It's a literal string versus a concatenation of variables.
Right.
And you got it. Make sense? Cool. Questions, questions, questions. String concatenation. Okay, next. And this is perfect. So this is a function in JavaScript. Now functions, well, like this lesson says, it's like black boxes. Some of them are black boxes, but usually we write our own functions, so if there are no black boxes, we have to actually write them, right? So it's not black anymore. Now, what's the purpose of functions? The purpose of function is to encapsulate some code that we need to use multiple times, right? So encapsulate behavior, encapsulate code that we need to use. In this case, we have a function called isOdd. And remember, a function is something that you give a value and it will give you a response. So it will give you will give some parameters to the function, and then that function will do something with that data, some instructions that will be executed, and then will return a response. So whoever is using this function can pass some parameters and get a response from that function. From that point of view, the person that is using the function, yeah, you can see, oh, it's a black box because I don't know how the function is implemented, but I know if I send these values to the function, I will get something back, right? It could be as simple as adding two numbers together. We also have some two functions that we used before, right? Console log and parsing or number, right? So for the parse-in function, we pass a string, and then we get a number back. And the function will convert that string to a number. So that was the function. In that case, parse-in is actually a black box. We don't know how that thing is implemented. Well, you can actually see how it's implemented because it's open source. You can go and see the actual code, but we don't care. I mean, probably nobody does that before. Like, nobody cares about that. We only care about the behavior, right? You pass a string, will give me back a number. Console log is also a function. Now, console log doesn't return anything. Console log, you pass something, and something will be printed in the console, in the terminal. In this case, we have a function called isOdd. We will learn the syntax now in a minute. So the function isOdd receives a number. And based on that number, that function will tell you if that number is odd or not. So if it's odd, it will return what? True. If it's not odd, it will return false. Okay? Now, the syntax for functions, we have, and this is section, whenever I record this, I will mark this piece here because I want you to memorize this section here, right? So functions in JavaScript, there are 3 ways to write functions in JavaScript with names. So we can say, okay, you wrote a function using this syntax. The 3 syntax are sorry, the three syntax are function declaration, function expression, and arrow function. And we will learn those three ways to create functions. Now, the first way, the function declaration, have this syntax. The word function, by the way, the word function, you cannot create variables using that name. Remember, everything that is a reserved word in JavaScript, so it's a word that JavaScript uses, you cannot use as a variable name. So function is a reserved word because you need it to use to create functions, so you cannot create variables with the name function. Now, the way we create a function in JavaScript using function declaration is like this. We put the function word, then we put the function name. Let's say I want to create a function called sum two numbers. So that's the name of the function. And notice something. The names of the function also follow the variable format. So A to C, lowercase or capital, 0 to 9, $, underscore, no numbers at the beginning of the name. And by convention, we use also camel case. Okay? So function name, and then a parenthesis with the function parameters. Right? So the function parameters are the inputs of the function. So what is the data that I will pass to this function? Right? So in this case, I'm summing and I'm adding two numbers, so I would have probably an A and a B. The variable names can be anything. It depends on the function. So if I want to sum A and B, and that makes sense for you, use them. If you want to give them, I don't know, value 1 and value 2, that's up to you. Yes?
Can they be strings or do they have to be variables?
Those are variables.
I know those are variables, but do they have to be variables? Or can
They can be anything.
Okay.
That's the problem with JavaScript. You can pass anything to a function.
Okay.
And whatever the function does with those variables, if you're trying to make some calculation, you know, with multiplications and division, and you pass something that is not a number, what will be the result? Nah, not a number. So, okay, so let's say A and B. So these are the parameters. Function name, parentheses, and inside the parentheses, the parameters. Now, if your function doesn't have parameters, just put parentheses, empty. But always, the parentheses should be always there, right? Now, A and B, and then curly brackets. So the curly brackets limit where the code of that function is. So everything inside the curly brackets is part of the function. Okay? So all the instructions of inside those curly brackets will be part of this function. Now, this function can do inside this code, or this code block, can do anything. It could create new variables, it can create new functions if you want, it can create anything, and then at the end, you should return something. So let's say I will create a variable here called C, that will be the sum of A and B. I'm creating a new variable. And notice that I use const because C will not be reassigned anymore, so const makes sense here. And then at the end, right, I'm making a calculation, and now I know the result is C. I have it in the variable C. What I do with that? I return it. And for that, there is a special instruction called return. So that instruction tells the function, this ends here, return this value. Got it? And that's my function. Of course, this can be simplified a lot because why do I need to create a variable, right? When I can just do return A plus B and that's it. It's just, you know, making it simpler to understand. Yes? Yeah, so. Got it? Question? Questions? No? Cool. So this is my function. Sum two numbers, parameters, A and B. And of course, this function returns the the sum of A and B. Now, if I want to use this function, right? Let's say I want to do sum equals, well, not sum. Let's do S equals sum two numbers, 100 and 200. So I can call the function. So one thing is declare the function. Declaring the function doesn't execute the function. Let me put it here. Declaring the function doesn't execute. Right? You can have 1,000 functions declaring your code, and then your code doesn't have any single line, and basically your code runs in a millisecond because it's nothing had to. The code doesn't have to do anything. It's just a bunch of functions declared, but nothing is executed, right? Declaring the function doesn't run them. You want to run a function, you have to call it. And the way to call it is to put the function name, parentheses, and then give them the arguments. The arguments are the parameters that you specify. So, and the arguments are position based. So the first number will match this A, the second one will be the B. So they are based in the position. So first one and second and third. So the arguments or the parameters are position based. So if you have 3 parameters, oh, actually, let's call it D because I already have a C. Then you need to specify a third one. So you can pass as many parameters as you need. Now, one of the issues of JavaScript is that when you are calling a function, sadly, there is it's not enforced that you need to pass 2 parameters. And you can pass only one. Will still work. Now, what's the value of the second? Sorry? Not 0 necessarily. So you have A and B. That means that your code, your function will have A and B. And I'm using A and B to calculate that sum. So what do you think it will be B here? A we know is 100, but B will be undefined. So undefined in JavaScript is a special value. Undefined, that's the name. Undefined. It's like true or false, right? It's a different literal value. Undefined means nothing. I mean, it means literally nothing, right? It doesn't mean nothing. No, it means literally nothing, right? So in this case, when we are running a function and we are not passing one of the parameters, this B will be undefined. And of course, if you try to add 100 plus undefined, well, there will be not a number, because you are adding something to undefined. That's not a number. Okay? Now, the same way you can add less parameters, you can add more parameters. And that's that's fine, I guess. Of course, this 300, nothing will point to it. So it's basically unnecessary, but it's not broken. Like, it will still work. Of course, the result here will be what? 300. Because it's A is 100, 200 is B, and then you will add those 2 numbers and everything will be fine. Okay? Now, there is a way for functions to take...
The value of the position.
It's depending on the position, yeah, because nothing is taking that third position, then I cannot use it. Now, there is a way for JavaScript functions to take any number of parameters. So you can do this, right? You can pass as many parameters as you want. There is a way for JavaScript to say, okay, instead of giving me A and B, I can just get any number of parameters. Actually, in JavaScript, I think there is a reserved word for that. I don't remember which one, so you can Google it. and let me know after. So I will let that to you. But yeah, there is a way to create a variable function that has undetermined number of parameters. And actually, console log works that way. So console log, so far we've been using console log like this, console log and printing only one thing, right? But in console log, you can actually put a comma and keep printing stuff. You can print 100, and then you can print plus, and then you can print 200, 200, sorry, and then comma, and then print some two numbers, 100 and 200. And this is valid because console log allows you to put any number of parameters that you want. All of them will be printed one next to the other. So in this case, it will say, hello, 100 plus 200, and this 300. Yeah, it would not put an equal because I didn't add an equal there. So if I want an equal, I should do equal, right?
Does it print it out like with a space, or is it like all right next?
I think it put a space because of the comma. Depending on the implementation, sometimes it's a space, sometimes we'll put it in a column. Depends on the. But yeah, okay, so that's how we call a function. We put the name of the function, we put the parentheses, and then we put the parameters. Now, if your function doesn't have parameters, you still need to put the parentheses. If you don't put the parentheses, that's not calling the function. Okay? Questions? So this is function declaration. Let me put it over here. And this is running a function. Okay? Okay, next. Function expression. Now, there is another way to write functions, and they will look like this. We will use a variable, right? We are declaring something like a variable, like I would keep the same example, sum two numbers. And then I will put the reserved word function with the parameters. So this is another way to create a function.
That's another way.
Another way to create a function. Notice that the difference is that here I'm making a declaration, function, sum to numbers. Like the syntax is very different. This one looks more like a variable, and it's actually a variable. So you do const sum to numbers. So sum to numbers is a variable, except that the value of the variable is a function, right? Instead of a string or a number, it's a function. And the way to create it, to write it, is like this. So function, parameters, curly brackets, same thing. But notice that here I put a semicolon at the end because this is still an expression, right? So whenever the function ends, I put a semicolon there. In the function declaration, you don't need to put a semicolon at the end of the function, right? It's not needed. It's a declaration.
Let me ask, you can call that function anywhere or not?
You were reading the lesson because that's the difference. That's the difference between those two. No, it's fine, it's fine. But yeah, I mean, there should be some difference between these two, right? And the difference is, normally, when I say normally, is that in real coding, if you try to use a variable, not declare a variable. Let's say you want to do this. Sum, well, let's do const equals s equals 100 plus a, right? So I have this code in a program, and I try to run this code, and this code will fail because a doesn't exist, right? So if a doesn't exist, it's not a variable, then the program will fail. Now, I need to declare that variable, but I need to declare that variable before I'm using it, right? If I do this const a equals 10 or 20, that will still fail. Because remember, code is executed from top to bottom. So when this instruction is being executed, a doesn't exist yet, right? You need to declare it first, and then it will run. So I'm declaring a equals 20, and then when I'm trying to use a, it will be 100 plus 20, so it will work. Correct? Makes sense? So variables need to be declared before they are being used. Now, the same can be applied to functions. So functions, when are declared using this syntax, can only be used after they are declared. So if I have this function here, and I need to use it here, so sum two numbers, and I declare the function here, this will fail because it's declared after I'm using it. Understand? Make sense? So I need to declare first. So I need to move it ahead of the other constant. So I'm declaring the function exists in memory, and then I'm using it. Correct? That's the case for this type of function, for function expressions, because they are essentially variables. They still handle as variables. So you cannot use a variable before it's declared. It's the same thing, because it's a variable. It's a variable that has a function inside. Now, the point with function declarations is that you can use them anywhere, and you can declare them anywhere. You can declare the function here, and it doesn't matter, because as long as the function is declared somewhere in the code, in the file, you can use it anywhere in the file. You can use it before, you can use it after, it doesn't matter, right? So those are the main difference between a function declaration and a function expression. Function declarations can be declared anywhere on the file, and they will still be available on the top of the file. And function expression need to be declared on the top of the file so they can be used later in the file.
Do people do that? Like, I would find it confusing if you're doing the function at the bottom, and it's something that you're going to be using at the top, right? Like
Yeah.
Sloppy if you don't put everything.
Yeah, that's sense. Yeah. Actually, yeah, makes sense. The thing is that JavaScript programs are so big that usually you don't put everything in a single file. That would be impossible to manage, right? So what you do is you put functions in different files, and you import them, but you need to import them on the top. So usually, and we will see how that works in later classes, usually you have a bunch of files, JavaScript files, each one with functions, and then if you need to use that function in another file, the first thing that you do in your code is to import that function, so now your function exists.
It's like you're calling that other file.
Yeah,
to go there.
but you need to put it on the top, right? So when you're running your code and that code is calling a function, that function is already imported, right? So yeah, that also applies when you have this type of projects, that everything is separated.
Like how you call Bootstrap basically at the top, and
Yeah.
it's going to be in the head, then it's going to be.
Exactly. So when you try to use a Bootstrap class, it's already there, so you can, so it will show up. Yeah, makes sense. Make sense? Also great, cool. So now these are the two main ways to create JavaScript functions, and these were the way that people create a lot of JavaScript functions for a lot of time, until someone came up and say, you know, writing function something and this and that is too much work. Like, we have to write too much, right? JavaScript needs a way to write functions that are really simple and really small. Like, for example, this function to sum two numbers, right? The simplest way that I have to write this is to do this. Return a plus b, but I still need, you see, all this code, like 3 lines of code. if I do it with a function, this is a function declaration. If I needed to do it with a function expression, will be like this. Oops, almost. I almost give the. So for a function expression, will still be 3 lines, right? With a semicolon even at the end. So too much code.
And you have to put function in front of the equal.
Oh, right. Thank you for that. Okay, yes. And actually the function expression, you can put in another name here, and that will still work. Of course, the function name will be sum to numbers, because that's where you're putting the but yeah, it can become really complex and a lot and very verbose for some people. I mean, I like this, but anyway. So some years ago, someone said, okay, let's do a simple version of a function, and they call it arrow function. So this is what an arrow function, like the simplest way to create this function, will look like. And that's an arrow function. So an arrow function, notice that I don't have, first of all, there are always expressions, right? They're not function declaration, they're always an expression, so you always have to assign it to a variable, right? That part, we cannot, this is there, we cannot remove that. But the actual function is this. It's not the function, it's not the declaration of the variable on the front. And this is essentially, the syntax is parentheses with the parameters. So parentheses, parameters separated by comma. This character here, this is the arrow character. It's not an arrow, it's just equal sign bigger than the 2 characters. And then the expression that will evaluate. So when you call this function, you call it the exact same way. There is no difference. And it will still be adding these 2 numbers. But notice that the syntax is way shorter, right? And it gets even shorter. Let me explain how. Remember that function that we were working here? Oops, restart it. Let me restart again. So the is-odd function, right? We had an is-odd function. I can write the is-odd function like this. So if you only have 1 parameter, that's I don't know who came up with this crazy idea. If you only have 1 parameter, you can avoid putting parentheses. Why you would do that? So most coding guidelines in most companies say, even if that's possible or viable, don't put the parentheses, because we want to understand, or at least see, that this is a function. So at least we see the parameters, the parentheses, for the parameters, and then the arrow. So when you see parentheses and then the arrow, you know that that's a function. If you see an arrow, that's a function, no matter what. But now it's clearer than this, because this is really what nobody will. Even for people that see this every day, it's like, shit, what is the function here? And now you see, oh, it's here because this is an arrow. So whatever is in front of the arrow is the parameters, right? But if you have parentheses, it will be easier to see, at least a little bit. Now, the other thing is that you are not, you can put curly brackets and do return equals b as well. But if you only have 1 return in your function, so if your function is only returning an expression, you can avoid the curly brackets and just put the expression right there next to the arrow. But if your function has some more code, then you can open the curly brackets and put all the code there, right? That's the other way that you can create that function. So with using arrows. By the way, you will see arrow functions, fat arrows, not sure why fat, maybe because it's an equal sign. Yeah, you will see that too. Fat in the documentation, fat arrow function. Same. It's all the same. Okay, so in this case, we have a function. Now, in what syntax this function is created? It's reading. Function declaration, exactly. Because you see, it's function. The name of the function is odd. And then what is the parameter of this function?
The variable mine.
My number. So this function takes only one parameter. And this function returns an expression that says if the this is the worst way to do this, but so it's doing modulus of 2, meaning if the division by 2 is 0, that means it's divisible by 2. It's even, but I don't want it's even. I want not. That's why you see an exclamation on the front.
If it's true, whatever is inside, then
It will be reverted to false. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the symbols, right? This symbol means not. So you have not true, that means false. And if you have not false, that means true.
I got 2 questions.
Yes.
Can I use the keyword function before the arrow function? I mean,
No.
do I have to create a variable to?
Yeah, for arrow functions don't wait. I think I'm out of Wi-Fi, maybe. No. Okay, so what you're saying is that if you want to put function here?
No, like before the.
Oh, you want to do
Yeah.
this?
Function, yeah.
No, that's not correct, Lisa. That's not correct.
And does it have the same issue as the other function?
Needs to be declared first, yeah. Because it's a variable, right? It's a variable. Actually, let's do a single trick. Like I have a function right here, right? What if I do this? Console log is odd, right? So it's odd, it's a function. And notice that I'm not calling it, I'm just printing it. So I'm printing the whole function. Wait, what is len pack? Oh, len pack. Len pack start. Give me 1 second. So len pack can. Hopefully it restarts on the same point that I. Oh.
Do we have to declare my number, or is it already?
My number is in the parameter.
No, I mean, like, how do you assign a number to my number?
I'll use the
By
number.
calling it. What happened here?
I mean, my number is not really a variable. I think it's just a parameter.
Yeah, but it's a real variable. Well, inside the function is a real variable. Something wrong here. Learn pack start. Come on. Oh, there you go. Learn pack. Okay, calling my first function. Okay, so right here, I'm printing. So if I need to call the function, remember I put parentheses, right? Let's say if this number is odd. By the way, let's do it a little bit more. So I am creating a variable named odd, and I am assigning the result of calling this function, right? Is odd. So this should be true or false depending on if that number actually should be false. As you can see there, because 156 is not odd, it's even, right? So that variable odd has the value false, and then that's what I'm printing. Now I'm calling the function, right? Because I'm passing that parameter. That means that when I'm passing the parameters, that first value is what my number will get when I'm running this function. So my number, when I'm running this function, and we can even see it, my number is okay, so you see that I'm printing two things. When I call the function, inside the function, I'm printing something in the console. So I'm printing my number is my number. So you see my number is taking that value 156. That's the value of my number. Make sense for everybody? So the values that we pass as parameters are the values that these parameters will get when the function is executing. Cool. Now, what if I print, instead of creating a variable, what if I print the actual function? Notice that I'm not calling the function. I'm just printing the function, right? Printing something in the console that says function is odd. Actually, in some other, it will print the full text of the function. So it will say, this is what the function is. It will print the whole thing, return something, 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 all that thing. So you can see that, and this is something that a lot of people get confused sometimes. Like you say, oh, but I'm calling the function. You are not calling the function. You're just printing the function. You want to call the function, parentheses. Now, I can pass no parameters. So my number will be undefined, and when I call the function, oh, actually undefined is even, is odd. And it's odd because this will return. Yeah, exactly, because it's false and not false is true. So it's returning true. This function is really messed up. And what if I pass a bunch of values like I can still call the function. But of course, the first one is the one that is my number. So the rest of the parameters are not getting assigned to anything. But the first one, this one over here, is my number. And my number is not odd, it's even. Got it? Now, the other problem with functions is that we cannot enforce the type of data that we send to the function. So what if we pass this as a string? What do you think it will return? I think it will return true. Oh, false. Because this modulus 2, I don't know what it is. It's probably 2, true. And not true is false. Oof. Messy. Really messy. But again, we cannot enforce that. So we don't have a way to control that. Right? JavaScript, in that sense, is not strongly typed. Strong typing is a characteristic of some languages. Strong type. Or strong type. Java is strong type language. C++, C#, all those. It's not strong. It's dynamic typing. So because it's not strong type, we cannot enforce when we call in a function. Actually, JavaScript is strong type. It's not statically typed. It's dynamically. So JavaScript is strong and dynamically. I don't know how to write dynamic. I'm missing the Y where? After the D? Okay, thank you. So dynamic. Okay, this is JavaScript. Java is strong type and statically type. So it's strong and static. That means that when you're writing the code will tell you if there is an error when you're calling a function. Because you can say, this function takes a number. And when you try to call the function with a string, it will tell you, hey, this is wrong here because you need to pass a number. So JavaScript doesn't have that. That's a problem with JavaScript, right? There are alternatives to that. After we learn JavaScript, we will start learning a little bit of TypeScript. And TypeScript is the solution to that problem. It's another language on top of JavaScript that allows you to put types on JavaScript, right? We will learn a little bit. It's not part of the program, but we will still see it in the program because I need you to understand what the industry is demanding. And the industry is demanding TypeScript, right? So, good. Cool. That's all for today. But again, you have, and this practice, by the way, has only one. Well, keep working on this. Yeah, keep working on it. By the way, keep working on it, because if you have problems, again, you can hit us on